The sun was shining brightly on a warm summer day as Emily sat at the kitchen table sipping her morning coffee. She glanced over at her husband Jack, who was hurriedly packing a bag in the living room going on another business trip. She asked, trying to hide the disappointment in her voice. "Yeah," Jack replied curtly. "Got a last-minute assignment." Emily sighed and tried not to let her frustration show. Jack had been going on a lot of these last-minute assignments lately, and she was beginning to suspect that something was off. As Jack headed out the door, Emily couldn't help but feel a pain of sadness. They had been married for 5 years, and it seemed like their relationship was slowly slipping away from her. The next day, Emily was at the grocery store, picking up some essentials when she saw him. It was unmistakably Jack, with his distinctive walk and his favorite blue shirt. Her heart racing, she tried to catch his attention, but he didn't seem to notice her deciding to go after him. She was speechless when she saw deciding to go after him. Emily trailed Jack as he walked down the aisles of the store, picking up various items and placing them in his cart. Emily's mind was racing as she tried to make sense of what was happening. Was Jack really on a business trip, or had he lied to her? And if he had lied, what was he doing here in the store? As Jack turned down another aisle, Emily hid behind a display of chips and watched as he met up with the woman. They hugged each other tightly and Emily felt her stomach drop. Was this another woman? Was Jack having an affair? The thoughts raced through Emily's head as she watched them walk off together, laughing and chatting like old friends. Emily's heart was breaking and she felt like she couldn't breathe. She stumbled out of the store, tears streaming down her face. Emily sat in her car trying to gather her thoughts. Her mind was spinning with questions and doubts. What was she supposed to do now? Confront Jack? Hire a private investigator? She couldn't shake the image of Jack and the woman laughing together. How could he do this to her, after everything they had been through together? All the struggles and the triumphs. Was their love not enough? Emily wiped her tears away and took a deep breath. She knew she couldn't just sit in the car all day. She had to do something, anything to take her mind off the pain. As she drove aimlessly around town, she found herself in front of her favorite cafe without really thinking. She parked the car and walked inside. The smell of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods filled her nostrils, and she felt a small glimmer of hope. Maybe a nice cup of coffee and a pastry would help her feel better. As she stood in line waiting to place her order, she couldn't help but notice the couple in front of her. They were holding hands and laughing together, clearly in love. Emily felt the pain of jealousy. How could they be so happy when her own relationship was falling apart? As she waited for her coffee, Emily sat down at a small table and tried to distract herself by scrolling through her phone, but every time she looked up she couldn't help feel a sense of despair. As she sipped her coffee, she couldn't help but feel like everything was falling apart. Her marriage was in shambles and she didn't know where to turn. Just as she was about to give up and leave, a woman approached her table. "Excuse me," I couldn't help but notice. "You look a little down. Is everything okay?" Emily was taken aback by the woman's kindness. She explained the situation to her, pouring out her heart and soul to a complete stranger. To her surprise, the woman listened intently and offered words of comfort and encouragement. She shared her own story of heartbreak and resilience and gave Emily hope that things would get better. As Emily left the cafe, she felt a renewed sense of strength and determination. She knew that she couldn't just give up on her marriage, not without trying everything in her power to make it work. She drove home with a sense of purpose, ready to confront Jack and demand answers. When Emily arrived home, Jack was sitting on the couch watching TV. As soon as he saw her, he turned off the TV and stood up. "Emily, what are you doing here? I thought you knew I was on a business trip." Emily didn't waste any time. "I saw you at the store yesterday with another one." Jack's face turned pale. "Emily, it's not what you think. That was just a colleague of mine. We were discussing a project." Emily didn't believe him. "Don't lie to me, Jack. I saw the way you hugged her and the way you were laughing together." Jack looked down at the floor. "Okay, you're right. It was more than just a colleague. We used to date, but it was a long time ago. It's over now." Emily's heart sank. "How could you keep this from me? Do you have any idea how much this hurts?" Jack reached out to her, but she pulled away. "I'm sorry, Emily. I didn't want to hurt you. I just didn't know how to tell you." Emily didn't know what to say. She felt angry, hurt, and betrayed, but at the same time, she couldn't imagine life without Jack. After a long silence, Emily spoke up. "I need some time to think. I'm going to stay with my sister for a few days. We need to talk about this when I get back." Jack nodded. "Okay, I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." As Emily gathered her things and left the house, she couldn't help but feel like her world had been turned upside down. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that she couldn't go on living like this. Emily spent the next few days with her sister trying to sort out her thoughts and emotions. She couldn't stop thinking about Jack and the betrayal she felt. On the third day, Emily's phone rang. It was Jack. Emily, I know I messed up. I should have been honest with you from the start, but I love you and I don't want to lose you. Emily was silent for a moment. I don't know if I can forgive you, Jack. You broke my trust. How can I believe anything you say? Jack pleaded with her. Please, Emily, let's talk about this in person. I want to make things right. Emily agreed to meet with him the next day. As she hung up the phone, she felt a mix of emotions. She didn't know if she was ready to face Jack, but at the same time, she couldn't stay away from him. The next day, Emily drove to a park where she and Jack used to go on picnics. He was waiting for her, holding a bouquet of her favorite flowers. Emily, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Please forgive me. Emily took the flowers and looked at Jack. He looked so sincere, but she didn't know if she could trust him again. Jack, I don't know if I can forgive you just like that, but I do love you and I want to try to work things out. Jack smiled. That's all I ask. I promise to be honest with you. From now on, no more secrets. Emily nodded. Okay, but we had a lot of work to do. We need to rebuild our trust in our relationship. Are you willing to do that? Jack took her hand. Yes, Emily. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. As they sat in the grass talking about their future, Emily felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe things could work out after all. Over the next few weeks, Jack and Emily worked hard to rebuild their relationship. They went to counseling, talked about their feelings, and tried to be honest with each other. It wasn't easy. There were times when Emily still felt angry and hurt, but Jack was patient and understanding, and he never gave up on her. One day, Emily came home from work to find Jack cooking dinner in the kitchen. He had set the table with candles and their best dishes. Jack, what's all this? Emily asked, surprised. Jack smiled. I just wanted to do something special for you to show you how much I love you. Emily felt her heart swell with emotion. She sat down at the table and they enjoyed a delicious meal together after dinner. Jack took Emily by the hand and led her to the living room. He had set up a projector and a screen. What's all this, Jack? Emily asked, intrigued. Jack grinned. I made a slideshow of all our photos together. I want to remember all the good times we've had and look forward to the future. As they watched the slideshow, Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. She saw photos of them on vacation at their wedding and just goofing around at home when the slideshow ended. Jack turned to Emily. I know I messed up, Emily, and I'll never forget the pain I caused you, but I promise to love and cherish you for the rest of my life. Emily looked at him, feeling overwhelmed with emotion. I love you too, Jack. I'm so grateful for everything you've done to make things right. As they hugged each other tightly, Emily felt a sense of peace and happiness. Maybe their relationship could work out after all. Before continuing the story, I recommend subscribing to my channel, not to miss new stories. A few months later, Emily and Jack were getting ready to celebrate their third wedding anniversary. They had planned a romantic getaway to a cabin in the woods. As they packed their bags, Emily felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. She couldn't wait to spend some time alone with Jack and celebrate their love. When they arrived at the cabin, Emily was impressed by how beautiful it was. It was nestled in the woods with a stunning view of the lake. Jack had planned everything perfectly. They went on long walks in the woods, cooked delicious meals together, and snuggled up by the fire at night. On the evening of their anniversary, Jack surprised Emily with a beautiful diamond necklace. Jack, it's gorgeous, Emily exclaimed, admiring the sparkling diamonds. Jack smiled. I just wanted to show you how much you mean to me. You're my everything. Emily, as they sat on the porch, sipping wine and enjoying the view, Emily felt so happy and content. She felt like she had everything she ever wanted. But as they talked, Emily noticed that Jack seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone and frowning. Is everything okay, Jack? Emily asked, concerned. Jack hesitated. I have to go back to the city tomorrow. Something's come up at work. Emily felt a knot in her stomach. She remembered the last time Jack had gone on a business trip. She didn't want to ruin their anniversary, but she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Okay, Jack. Just be careful, okay? Jack nodded. I will, I promise. As they went to bed that night, Emily felt a sense of foreboding. She couldn't explain it, but she felt like something was wrong. The next morning, Jack left for the city, promising to be back in a few days. Emily tried to focus on enjoying the rest of their anniversary trip, but she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. On the third day, Emily decided to go for a walk in the woods to clear her head. As she walked, she heard a noise in the distance. Curious, she followed the sound until she came to a clearing. And that's when she saw him. Jack deciding to go after him. She was speechless when she saw him holding hands with another woman. Emily's heart stopped as she watched Jack and the other woman laughing and walking hand in hand. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. For a moment, Emily stood frozen, unable to move or speak. She felt like the world had stopped turning as Jack and the other woman disappeared from sight. Emily felt a surge of anger and betrayal. How could he do this to her? How could he lie to her like this without thinking? Emily ran back to the cabin. She packed her bags as quickly as she could, not even bothering to fold her clothes. She didn't care about anything except getting away from Jack and the pain he had caused her as she drove back home. Emily felt a mix of emotions. She was hurt, angry, and heartbroken. She couldn't believe that the man she loved had lied to her and cheated on her when she got home. Emily didn't know what to do. She felt lost and alone, with no one to turn to. She couldn't even bring herself to talk to Jack. Days turned into weeks, and Emily found herself slipping into a deep depression. She didn't want to leave the house or talk to anyone. All she could think about was Jack and what he had done to her. One day, Emily's best friend Sarah came over to check on her. She found Emily sitting on the couch staring blankly at the TV. "And what's going on?" Sarah asked, concern etched on her face. Emily didn't say anything. She just shook her head and looked away. Sarah sat down next to her. "You can talk to me. I'm here for you." And that's when Emily finally opened up. She told Sarah everything from the day Jack had left for his business trip to the moment she had seen him with the other woman. Sarah listened patiently, holding Emily's hand as she cried. She didn't judge her or tell her what to do. She just listened. Over the next few weeks, Sarah helped Emily pick up the pieces of her shattered life. They went on walks, watched movies, and talked about everything and anything. Slowly but surely, Emily began to heal. She started to see that she didn't need Jack to be happy. She had her friends, her family, and herself. And as the weeks turned into months, Emily realized that she was going to be okay. She had survived the pain and the heartbreak, and she was stronger for it. Jack may have broken her heart, but he couldn't break her spirit, and Emily knew that she was going to come out of this experience stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. Months had passed since Emily had seen Jack with the other woman, and she had moved on with her life. She had started a new job and was making new friends, but there was still a part of her that wanted closure. She needed to talk to Jack and confront him about what he had done. One day out of the blue, Jack called Emily. She was surprised to hear his voice shaky. Emily took a deep breath. "Okay, go ahead." "I'm sorry for what I did," Jack said. "I never meant to hurt you. It was a mistake, and I regret it every day." Emily felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over her. She couldn't believe that Jack was still trying to justify his actions. "Jack, you lied to me," Emily said, her voice shaking with emotion. "You betrayed my trust. I can't just forgive you like that." "I know," Jack said, "and I don't expect you to. I just wanted to apologize and tell you that I still love you." Emily didn't know what to say. Part of her still loved Jack, but she knew that she could never trust him again. "I need some time to think," Emily said finally. "I can't just forgive you like that. I need to know that you're truly sorry and that you won't do it again." "I understand." Jack said, "I'll give you all the time you need. Just know that I'm here for you, always." Emily hung up the phone and sat there for a while, thinking she didn't know if she could ever forgive Jack. But she knew that she needed to find closure and move on with her life. And so, a few days later, Emily decided to meet Jack in person. They met at a quiet cafe and Emily looked Jack in the eye. "Jack, I can't forgive you for what you did," Emily said, her voice firm. "But I do want closure. I need to know why you did it." Jack looked down at his hands. "I don't have an excuse, Emily. I was stupid and selfish. I thought I could have my cake and eat it too. But I realize now that was wrong." Emily sighed. "I wish I could just forget about it and move on. But I can't. You hurt me in a way that I can't just brush aside." "I know," Jack said. "And I'm sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to you." Emily shook her head. "It's not that simple, Jack. You can't just make it up to me. You shattered my trust, and that's not something that can be repaired overnight." Jack nodded. "I understand. I'll give you all the time you need, Emily. Just know that I'll always love you." And with that they parted ways. Emily didn't know what the future held, but she knew that she was strong enough to face it. With or without Jack, Emily tried to move on with her life, but thoughts of Jack still haunted her. She couldn't help but wonder if she had made the right decision by letting him go. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Emily threw herself into her work and her hobbies, but there was always a part of her that felt empty. One day, while she was out shopping, Emily saw Jack. He was walking down the street with another woman holding hands and laughing. Emily felt a pain of jealousy and sadness. She couldn't believe that Jack had moved on so quickly while she was still struggling to pick up the pieces. Deciding to go after him, Emily was speechless when she saw Jack enter a store. She stood there for a few minutes, unsure of what to do. Finally, she gathered her courage and walked into the store. She saw Jack and the other woman looking at some clothes, and she could feel her heart breaking. "Emily," Jack said, surprised to see her. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," Emily said, her voice shaking. "I thought you were on a business trip." Jack looked down at his feet. I was, but I decided to come back early. Emily felt a wave of anger wash over her. She couldn't believe that Jack was lying to her again. Who is she? Emily asked, pointing at the other woman. This is my friend, Jack said quickly. We were just shopping together. Emily narrowed her eyes. I don't believe you, Jack. You lied to me before and you're lying to me again. I'm not lying, Emily, Jack said, his voice rising. She's just a friend. Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. She couldn't believe that Jack was still trying to decipher. I don't want to hear it, Jack, Emily said, her voice cracking. I'm done with you. Don't ever talk to me again. And with that, Emily turned and walked out of the store, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't believe that Jack had hurt her again. But she knew that she couldn't let him back into her life. As Emily walked down the street, she could feel a weight lifting off her shoulders. She knew that it wouldn't be easy, but she was finally ready to move on with her life without Jack. Emily spent the next few weeks trying to keep herself busy and distracted. She threw herself into her work, spent time with her friends, and took up new hobbies. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness and heartbreak that lingered inside her. One day, Emily received a phone call from Jack. She was surprised to hear from him and wasn't sure if she should answer. Finally, she mustered up the courage and picked up the phone. Emily, Jack said, I know you don't want to talk to me, but I need to explain. Emily hesitated for a moment before speaking. Fine on Jack. Explain. I was lying to you, Jack said. The woman in the store was not just a friend. She's someone I've been seeing for a few months. Emily felt a wave of anger wash over her. She couldn't believe that Jack was still lying to her. You're a coward, Jack, Emily said. You couldn't even be honest with me. You had to lie to my face again. I'm sorry, Emily, Jack said, his voice shaking. I know I messed up, but please give me another chance. I'll do anything to make it up to you. Emily paused for a moment, considering Jack's words. She knew that she still loved him, but she wasn't sure if she could trust him again. I can't, Jack, Emily said finally. I can't keep putting myself through this. I need to move on with my life. Jack's voice was quiet when he spoke again. I understand, Emily. I just want you to know that I'm sorry for everything. And with that, the call ended. Emily felt a sense of finality wash over her. She knew that she had made the right decision, but it didn't make the pain go away. She spent the next few months trying to heal and move on. It wasn't easy, but she knew that she had to do it for her own sake. Emily threw herself into work and started going out with friends more often. She even tried online dating, but nothing seemed to click. Despite her efforts, Jack was still on her mind. She couldn't help but wonder if things could have been different if he had just been honest with her from the start. One day, Emily received an unexpected package in the mail. It was from Jack. As she opened the package, Emily couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. She was curious to see what was inside but also apprehensive. Inside the package was a handwritten letter from Jack. He apologized once again for his behavior and expressed his love for her. He also included a necklace that he had bought for her during his business trip. Emily didn't know what to make of the gesture. Part of her was touched by Jack's efforts to make amends, but another part of her was angry that he was still trying to insert himself into her life. She debated for days on what to do. Eventually, Emily decided that she needed closure once and for all. She called Jack and asked to meet up in person. They agreed to meet at a park near their old apartment. When Emily arrived, she saw Jack waiting for her on a bench. He stood up as she approached, and they hugged awkwardly. Thank you for meeting me, Emily, Jack said, his voice tentative. Emily took a deep breath before speaking. I needed to see you in person, Jack. I needed closure. I understand, Jack said. I just want you to know that I'm truly sorry for everything. I should have been honest with you from the start. Emily nodded slowly. I appreciate your apology, Jack, but the truth is I can't just forget about everything that's happened. I can't trust you again. I know, Jack said, his voice heavy. I just wish things could have been different. Me too, Emily said softly. They sat in silence for a few moments before Emily spoke again. I think it's time for us to say goodbye, Jack. Jack nodded slowly. I understand, but before I go, I want you to have this necklace. Emily looked down at the necklace in Jack's hand. It was simple and elegant, and it reminded her of all the good times they had shared together. I can't accept this, Jack, Emily said. It's too much. I want you to have it, Jack said, as a reminder of our time together and as a symbol of my love for you. Emily took the necklace from Jack's hand and put it around her neck. She looked up at him and smiled weakly. Goodbye, Jack, Emily said. I hope we can both find happiness someday. Goodbye, Emily, Jack said. I'll always love you. And with that, Jack walked away. Emily watched him go, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. She knew that it was time for her to move on and start a new chapter in her life. In the days and weeks that followed their meeting, Emily tried her best to put Jack behind her and move on with her life. She focused on her career and spent more time with her friends, taking up new hobbies and exploring new places. But even as she tried to move on, Emily couldn't help but think of Jack from time to time. She missed the good times they had shared together, but she also knew that she couldn't go back to the way things were. One evening, Emily was sitting at home watching TV when she heard a knock on the door. She got up and walked over to see who it was, her heart beating faster with each step as she opened the door. "I need to move on with my life." Jack's voice was quiet when he spoke again. "I understand, Emily. I just want you to know that I'm sorry for everything." And with that, the call ended. Emily felt a sense of finality wash over her. She knew that she had made the right decision, but it didn't make the pain go away. She spent the next few months trying to heal and move on. It wasn't easy, but she knew that she had to do it for her own sake. Emily threw herself into work and started going out with friends more often. She even tried online dating, but nothing seemed to click. Despite her efforts, Jack was still on her mind. She couldn't help but wonder if things could have been different if he had just been honest with her from the start. One day, Emily received an unexpected package in the mail. It was from Jack. As she opened the package, Emily couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. She was curious to see what was inside, but also apprehensive. Inside the package was a handwritten letter from Jack. He apologized once again for his behavior and expressed his love for her. He also included a necklace that he had bought for her during his business trip. Emily didn't know what to make of the gesture. Part of her was touched by Jack's efforts to make amends, but another part of her was angry that he was still trying to insert himself into her life. She debated for days on what to do. Eventually, Emily decided that she needed closure once and for all. She called Jack and asked to meet up in person. They agreed to meet at a park near their old apartment. When Emily arrived, she saw Jack waiting for her on a bench. He stood up as she approached, and they hugged awkwardly. "Thank you for meeting me, Emily," Jack said, his voice tentative. Emily took a deep breath before speaking. "I needed to see you in person, Jack. I needed closure." "I understand," Jack said. "I just want you to know that I'm truly sorry for everything. I should have been honest with you from the start." Emily nodded slowly. "I appreciate your apology, Jack. But the truth is, I can't just forget about everything that's happened. I can't trust you again." "I know," Jack said, his voice heavy. "I just wish things could have been different." "Me too," Emily said softly. They sat in silence for a few moments before Emily spoke again. "I think it's time for us to say goodbye, Jack." Jack nodded slowly. "I understand, but before I go, I want you to have this necklace." Emily looked down at the necklace in Jack's hand. It was simple and elegant, and it reminded her of all the good times they had shared together. "I can't accept this, Jack," Emily said. "It's too much. I want you to have it," Jack said, as a reminder of our time together and as a symbol of my love for you. Emily took the necklace from Jack's hand and put it around her neck. She looked up at him and smiled weakly. "Goodbye, Jack," Emily said. "I hope we can both find happiness someday." "Goodbye, Emily," Jack said. "I'll always love you." And with that, Jack walked away. Emily watched him go, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. She knew that it was time for her to move on and start a new chapter in her life. In the days and weeks that followed their meeting, Emily tried her best to put Jack behind her and move on with her life. She focused on her career and spent more time with her friends, taking up new hobbies and exploring new places. But even as she tried to move on, Emily couldn't help but think of Jack from time to time. She missed the good times they had shared together, but she also knew that she couldn't go back to the way things were. One evening, Emily was sitting at home watching TV when she heard a knock on the door. She got up and walked over to see who it was, her heart beating faster with each step as she opened the door. Emily wasn't sure if she could forgive him again, but she was willing to try. She loved Jack and she didn't want to give up on their relationship over the next few days. Jack did everything he could to make it up to Emily. He cooked her dinner, bought her flowers, and even cleaned the entire house. Emily appreciated the effort that Jack was putting in, but she still wasn't sure if she could trust him again. It was going to take time and a lot of work to rebuild their relationship. As they sat together on the couch, Emily looked over at Jack and took his hand. "I want to believe you, Jack," she said softly. "I want to trust you again. But you have to show me that you're serious about this. You have to prove to me that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make this work." Jack nodded, tears in his eyes. "I will, Emily. I promise I'll do anything to make this work." And with that, they embraced each other, holding on tightly as they began the long journey of rebuilding their relationship once again. Over the next few weeks, Jack worked hard to regain Emily's trust. He was patient and understanding, always making sure to communicate with her and be honest about his feelings. Emily appreciated the effort that Jack was putting in, but she still couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that she felt when she saw him in the store. She didn't want to keep bringing it up, but she couldn't help but feel hurt every time she thought about it. One day, as they were sitting on the couch watching TV, Emily turned to Jack and asked him a question that had been weighing on her mind. "Jack, why did you need time alone? Why didn't you just tell me what was going on?" Jack took a deep breath and looked at Emily. "It wasn't that I needed time alone, Emily. I felt like I was losing myself. I was so focused on making things work between us that I forgot who I was. I needed to figure out who I was and what I wanted in life." Emily listened as Jack explained himself, and she could see the sincerity in his eyes. She realized that he was struggling with his own identity and that it wasn't about her at all. "I understand, Jack," she said softly, "but you have to understand that lying to me isn't the way to go about it. We're a team and we should be able to rely on each other for support." Jack nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know, Emily, I messed up and I'm sorry. I promise they'll never lie to you again." Emily took Jack's hand and smiled at him. "I believe you, Jack. Let's work on this together, okay?" And with that, they hugged each other tightly, knowing that they had a long road ahead of them, but also feeling confident that they could make it work. As the weeks passed, Jack and Emily worked hard to rebuild their relationship. They went on dates, talked openly and honestly with each other, and made an effort to spend quality time together. One day, as they were taking a walk in the park, Emily looked at Jack and said, "You know, Jack, I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" Jack asked, looking at her curiously. "Well, I was wondering if you wanted to renew our vows," Emily said, her voice quiet. Jack's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" Emily nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "I think it would be a good way for us to start fresh, to show each other that we're committed to making this work." Jack's heart swelled with love for Emily, and he nodded eagerly. "I would love that, Emily. Let's do it." And so they started planning their vow renewal ceremony. They wanted it to be simple but meaningful, and they decided to invite only their closest friends and family on the day of the ceremony. Jack and Emily stood before their loved ones and exchanged vows once again. They promised to love each other, to support each other, and to never give up on their relationship. As they kissed, they knew that they had come a long way since that day in the store. They had faced their problems head on, and they had come out stronger on the other side. After their vow renewal ceremony, Jack and Emily felt closer than ever before. They continued to work on their relationship, communicating openly and honestly with each other, and making an effort to keep the spark alive. One day, as they were sitting on the couch watching a movie, Emily turned to Jack and said, "You know, Jack, I still can't believe that you were in the store that day." Jack looked at her, confusion written all over his face. "What are you talking about, Emily?" "You know, the day you said you were leaving on a business trip, but I saw you in the store," Emily clarified. Understanding dawned on Jack's face. "Oh, that. Emily, I'm so sorry. I should have explained better. I was actually on my way to the airport, and I remembered that I had forgotten my passport at the store. I had to turn back and get it before I could leave on my trip." Emily's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, Jack, I had no idea. I just assumed the worst." Jack reached over and took her hand. "I know, Emily, and I'm sorry for any pain or doubt that I caused you. But I promise you, from now on, I will always be open and honest with you." Emily smiled and leaned in to kiss Jack. "I know you will, Jack, and I trust you with those words." Jack and Emily knew that they had truly put the past behind them. They were committed to their relationship and to each other, and nothing could ever break them apart. Years went by and Jack and Emily grew old together. They had faced many challenges throughout their lives, but they had always faced them together. As they sat on their porch, holding hands and watching the sun set, Jack turned to Emily and said, "You know, Emily, I never could have imagined a life without you." Emily smiled at him. "Neither could I, Jack. You were my soulmate, my partner, my best friend. I couldn't have asked for a better life." Jack leaned in and kissed her. Their love is strong as ever. They had faced so many ups and downs, but through it all, they had never lost sight of the love they shared as they sat there watching the world go by. They knew that their love would never fade. They had been through so much together, and they had come out stronger on the other side. And as the sun set on their lives, they knew that they had truly lived a life filled with love, happiness, and adventure. Thanks for watching.